My birth father's brother adopted my older sister and I because we belonged to that family line and obligations of family. I wish obligations of family was not a thing because our life was a living hell. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, neglect, being told exactly why we were not loved by our grandparents, being called wetbacks because our mom is a different race. But we did survive that. And they ended up giving us back to our birth father because the school that I was attending at the time in 1989 got wind of the abuse, mostly because I ended up getting swim class in the middle of the school year and had scars up and down my back. Didn't know that I even had them. It had been at least a week since my last spanking, or what they called spankings. And they shipped me out to my birth father. My sister had already been shipped out there. Something inside me altered as I crossed state lines from Michigan to Ohio. In Michigan, I was this small little kid, never spoke back, did what I was told, rarely ever broke the rules. I was extremely submissive. But when I crossed state lines into Ohio to live with my birth father, I was no longer submissive. I was no longer afraid. I don't know why I was no longer afraid, but I wasn't. So I fought back against the abuse that we endured there. It wasn't always pleasant, and maybe I was a little stuck up because he lived in severe poverty and stuff. But that still didn't excuse some of the abuse that we went through. And one day, after everybody else had gone to school, he took his girlfriend at the time and my half-brother, Rob, and I out on a little road trip. We went into this building and he told us to have a seat. So we did. We sat down and waited while he disappeared into this door. I looked around. It was nice. The sun shining in through the glass doors. It was snowy outside, which made it even more pretty. The sun just glistened off of there. Sort of like a new hope coming. Inside, bare white walls, benches lined on one side, doors on the other. Then he came out and said, "Let's go." So we all stood up. He said, "Not you." Told me to sit back down. So I sat there, watched them walk out that door. All of a sudden, that door wasn't showing brightness and a great future, but cold, hard, empty. Just like the hallway that I sat in. To a child, it felt like hours that I sat there. Maybe it was only minutes, but to me it felt like it was hours sitting there. Then this lady came out of the door that he had disappeared through, told me to follow her, and I did. Followed her back into this office space, a bunch of little cubicles all over the place, and again, I sat. Sat while she did paperwork, not knowing what was going on, not knowing who she was, didn't even know what building I was in. Why was I being left behind? I wanted the abuse to end, but I didn't want to be separated from my sister, and I didn't want to be alone. But that's exactly how I felt, with a room full of people I did not know, sitting there watching her do paperwork. Again, seeming like hours, before finally she told me that we're going to go for a ride. We went for a ride, and we drove up to this building, huge fence overlooking it, big parking lot, a huge building. Never seen anything like that before. I was a little intimidated, scared even. She took me inside, told me this is where I would be living at. They took me upstairs to a female bathroom, had me stripped down in front of them, gave me this shampoo that stunk really bad and stung when it touched my skin, and I was told to use it from head to toe. Never smelled anything so rank in my life. Supposedly, it's to kill lice and every other germ or disease that you could possibly have had back in 1989. Then I was taken downstairs, and as we came down the stairs, I noticed that the hallway went one way where we originally came in, and then it went off into the other, which kind of looked like a living room, but there was this boxed in area which was called the staff room. And then next to the staff room was this door with a little tiny window with bars on it. That's the room I was put in. I was put into a room with little tiny bars looking out, watching everybody else. And throughout the day, everybody, male and females that lived there, came by to see the new girl, the fresh meat as they called it. That was my first night as a foster kid.